short poem is it's a love poem. It sounds kind of cheesy to say that, but it began because a friend, my girlfriend had left me, and then I had been talking about her for months and months. Javier can attest to this. And I told one of my good friends about her, and and I was like trying to forget her, as most people do by seeing other people. Wasn't working, and so then she was like, "I'm tired of hearing this, Joe. Like, I don't care what you're saying." She's like, "All these people you're telling me about, it doesn't matter because they're not Nene." Right? That's the girl's name, my girlfriend. I was like, okay, I never talked about it, so I began like this poem called Not Nene. Not Nene. Lily, Ana, Cindy, Sara, Lidia, Mariela, Cara, Lupe, Serena, Karina, Talia, Carmela, Dora, Fermina, Alejandra, Agapita, Xochi, Alicia, Rosa, Carissa, Marina, Stella, Marisela, Eloisa, Mariposa, Maria, Mia, Yanira, Araceli, Zoila, Gisela, Victoria, Norma, Crescencia, Viri, Natalia, Viviana, Patti, Blanca, Natalie, Laura, Diana, Rosana, Alma, Juana, Karina, Anastasia, Lorna, Elisa, Teresa, Gata, Belinda, Mayra, Leticia, even then, still. So the last thing, the last thing is for Alfred. I unfortunately, I came to Cal in 2010, so by that time, all I had was these stories from like people that I had met, all these people speaking so highly of Alfred, and I just grew more and more like just sort of like I missed out, like I had missed out on meeting and learning from this man, and all I have is his books and the stories that Javier tells me and other people. Our friend Leon also was really close with Alfred, and would spend hours with him in his office just talking about poetry and things. And so this began from reading his book on Chicano poetics, which Javier let me borrow, and I carried around for a long time. But for Alfred, for Arteaga. Escucha, el poeta anda chicando, el maestro anda chicando, en el nombre de los nosotros, chicando, chicando, los angelitos chicando, puro chicando, la doctora me dijo, el monje me dijo, la musa me dijo, se murió de chicando, finalmente chicando, todavía chicando. And with a side note, adelante. Nos dijo Alfredo, the postmodern subject is a Chicano subject. X for the Nahuatl of Mexica, Mexicano, Chicano, and for the chiasmus of a Criollo nun. It is the continual coming to be within the exchange of discourses, languages. The Chicano is the subject of Aztlán, the cultural nation, but not the state, and not subject to capricious borderlines. It is a state of being, but rather than an act, chicando, the progressive tense, ando chicando, actively articulating self. The infinite chicar, meaning to play, to conflict, to work out dialogically unfinalized version of self. Across the street from the University of California, at the coffee house called Milanos, every year the baristas construct an altar for the poet, the scholar, the Chicano, during Dia de los Muertos. There is no higher honor than this in all the world. Alfred, though I never knew thee, I too bow my head and mourn your passing. Salud. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph Rios. Next poet, besides the poet, is a DJ, a all-around media whiz, and a spoken word artist, Darren De Leon.
I guess I'll continue with the jokes. What do you call a Chicano in Canada? A Chicano. I had opportunities to meet Arteaga. It was wonderful during that time. I was probably too drunk.
So was he.
So this one is from a collection I've completed, a manuscript called Viking in the Time of Occupy. So this is one that's actually some found language I used from an essay from the Nation. It's condensed 50,000 words to about 200. So we got banked on. Clear conduct of banking from the financial crunch. For-profit fails the poor, deepening the excess margin. Relentless pursuit of an intrinsic industrial economy which continues to expose us all. Crisis and the harm done to poverty. Unrealistic curbs for industry, given the bank's senior sway, privileged party power. Focus on the movement, approaching material change, somewhat rash without trash, explore alternative systems. Realignment of industry changes society, the world can share ambition of the extraordinary and eclectic. The army of unemployed versus financial experts of derivatives, regulators and bloggers of financial law. No shortage of weeks, examine reform and soon occupy legislation to amend the Volcker Rule, riffs about an ideal bank where practice values customers. Credit unions and equals say would be nonprofit and accessible to the poor. Grameen Bank better than conventional banks make New York small scale, replicate everywhere. Jesus crisis and characteristics of temple debt, risk secrecy and infamous default, options only understood by the wolf. In contrast, transparent and real-time technology lifts us to a plausible platform. Borrowers and lenders negotiate. The idea of risk limits buildup. The banks would clear house, buy loans through mutual funds. Run the bank, maximize profits unnatural. Who predicts the yet to be invented? Manage the constant flux. Homelessness prevents risk to the bank on the run. Nothing new under the credit union sun. The deprived must create the de novo bank, acquire the shared vision, amend the triple bottom line, community, social, and environmental impacts. If attempted, success is a public concept. Clear the path to insert a heart into this nervous economy. Undermine the domination. Our money values equality, democracy, and justice.
Thank you, Darren De Leon. Next poet is Harold Terrazon.
So I had the pleasure to take a creative writing class under Alfred. So when I was trying to decide how to use language in poetry, he actually assigned me to read his Chicano Poetics book, even though it was not part of the curriculum. And every time we would meet, we would always talk about love. I don't know why, it just came out to that. And I would always bring up the idea that I couldn't really write one. So he kind of challenged me to write one. So I wrote this under his class, and it's called Loving Perfecto. Con trago de tequila, fast, smooth, quick, and painless, llegaré a tu puerta half dazed, half drunk, half buzzed, half pasmado y pendejo, sacando mi guitarra solitaria, cantando serenata como chele gringo, con merengue medio tonto, tocaré las cuerdas all fucked up. With cracking voice, medio gato, medio Kermit, de Sample Ochente, Billy Willie Shakespeare, LL Cool J's, I need love you, un poquito de Stevie B, because I love you. Embarrassed, the windows will be shut, y aún under the moonlight me saldrán los versos como blurred Spanglish silhouettes, stagnant como las estrellas que se pierden en el smog que nunca tocan el suelo. Te cantaré y te bailaré la canción como medio cantinflas, medio Elaine Seinfeld, hasta que abras la ventana como reina, o que llegue la chota treating me like a king. Y lo haré, pero después de otro gin and tonic. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold Perezon. Next poet is Sandra Garcia Rivera. I organized this reading specifically to be right before the full moon. Wednesday, because every year, I mean for the whole year, it was right before the Lunada. Sandra Garcia Rivera has taken over from Mark Binate, one of the oldest open mic series here in the Mission, the Galeria de la Raza, across the street and down the street, a few blocks that way. So we're glad to have Sandra Garcia Rivera. Next reading is Friday?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Cinco de Mayo.
Saturday, Cinco de Mayo, Tim Hernandez. If you haven't heard Tim Hernandez or have a book of his, go get a copy if they don't have one here. Or come to the Lunada. He is incredible, incredible. Another poet originally from Fresno. I tell you, man, there's something in the water.
Yeah.
There definitely is. And went to Boulder, Colorado to study with me, but I had left, so he ended up going to Naropa or something, and now is back in California, I believe.
Yes.
So Tim Hernandez, great opportunity. Cinco de Mayo, come to the reading, the Lunada.
Thank you for that, Mona. And also accompanying Tim that night will be Lance Canales, who's a musician, special guest, as well as Aya de Leon, one of our Bay Area spoken word goddesses and director of the Poetry of the People program. So yes, thank you. So I didn't have to say all of that. It was awesome. So I'm doing two things that I've never done before. One is that I'm reading from my phone. I've never done this before. This is brand new.
Seems to be the theme of the night.
I know. I don't know what it's going to turn out to be. I was really concerned about line breaks. How does one honor your line breaks if you're reading from your phone?
Hold it sideways.
And then my friend said, oh, you just look at it as a PDF. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to do two pieces. They're kind of quick. And I've never read this poem before. I'm trying to figure it out. It's called 5 Stories. Consider the last person who considered the sidewalk below. Standing on the ledge, tired of the static on her frequency, the breeze brushing tears from her cheeks, blowing through straight blonde hair, lifting strands in the air like feather on the wind. Did she wake up feeling strange that day? Strange, like helium, like elastic, like a balloon floating in the sky. Maybe she remembered her ex-husband, the way he used to wake up strange sometimes, knock her around the room to catch his balance strange sometimes. Maybe she thought about the last doctor visit. What pills was it today? The pink one, the white one, oval or round, packet or bottle? She liked the way pills rushed and bumped as they slid out the plastic container, a chorus that grew fainter each passing day. She woke up strange, but why? Wasn't she getting married, going to Hawaii, a volcanic diamond erupting on her finger? Her daughter, high school bound, tall, leggy blonde, modeled makeup in mommy's mirror. What more could she want? The cigarettes. How she loved the cigarettes. As she considered the sidewalk below, was she smoking? Where did she put it out? On the rusted iron railing? On the paint, peeling, chipped? She woke up strange that day and climbed out onto the fire escape, smoking to cool the burning inside. As she considered the sidewalk, was it a pool? As the breeze carried her, lifted her straight blonde strands towards the sky, as the strange floated away like a balloon from her daughter's reach, heavy with peace in gravity's embrace, did the sidewalk shimmer like water? That's 5 stories. form, I'm trying to figure out the prose poem. I have a mentor who said, that's not a prose poem. And somebody said, oh, that's a good prose poem. So I'm not sure I figured it out, so I'm just playing with this idea still. But this is a little, yeah, Barren Woman. And in this poem, SP is Sylvia Plath. Barren Woman. Chopping it up in the kitchen, fluorescent lights, Wednesday noon. I told her I'd drop down to 101. Stress and heartache, best weight loss program around. Free, too. She looked me up and down, asked, you barren? I thought, barren? Wow, she's bold. Popping a question like that in the middle of the day, hardly know her, front of the coffee machine. Me? A child? And I thought about it for a while. And I felt proud that someone actually thought it possible for me to be in the practice, in the body, able to actually bear a child in my body. And I fantasized in that moment or three that I was bearing a gift, bearing fruit, persimmons or a basket of tangerines, bearing witness to my belly growing, while I, all these days, had been burying the dream of ever having a child. And in that split second or three that the universe was planting a seed in me, I did a double take in my brain, repeated the question, make sure I heard it right. Did you ask if I was barren? And she said, no. I asked if you were barren. And with that one slant and inflection, I was drop-kicked out of this fantasy. The script flipped, planted back in reality to the coffee drip of the kitchen, back to the life she read so well. Barren? Really? Hadn't heard that term since I read the poem by SP. And wasn't that 1962 or 63? How cold a consonant, how cruel a vowel can be. Do people still actually use that word? Hadn't it fallen out of fashion? Dropped right out of the dictionary? Sure wish it had. Sure wish. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Sandra Garcia Rivera. This is the third of the series, Alley Cat Poets in the Mission. The next will be the next first Wednesday of the month, which is June 6, 6/6/12. I love those numbers. 6 is my favorite number. So we're having a mission poet by way of Mexico come back, Miguel Flores, incredible poet. And we're looking for another reader since we haven't heard back from Adrian Arias. So it will be the two of them or someone else for La Primavera. So the first series, so to kick off the series, I asked my friend Jim Powell to read with me along with Naomi Quinones, who was out of town at the time, with the theme of Historia, history. So I would like to now invite Jim Powell. Jim Powell is the author of 2 books of poetry. The last is Substrata, incredible book.
I have 2 flower poems for you. The first one's actually a translation of a poem, French poem by Gilles Durand, who was a contemporary of Shakespeare's, a lyric poet and a songwriter. It's called In the Garden. I love the darling violet, the winking pink, and daisies too. I love vermilion roses, yet above all, I love brown-eyed Sue. That's for Susie. This is called Sierra Gentians. I mentioned Proserpine, which is one of the names of the dreadful Greek goddess Persephone, Dana Persephonea. She embodies or incarnates the eternal presence of the absence of death. Sierra gentians. Most summers, Sierra gentians bloom unnoticed, hidden in meadow grass on their short stems. A lowly flower, the yellowish white of old bone. Its chalices are more conspicuous, their throats exposed in the sparse grass of a dry year. Stoop closer, and the purple streaks appear that mark the inner faces of the petals. Kneel in the morning dew and see how they descend inside the bell and disappear, swallowed in shadow among a fading speckle of green flecks. Pale trumpets trailing in the sandy soil and lakeside. Tiny bone-white cups for Proserpine gathering dawnlight, humbled in the dirt, where we will all lie down in the one bed together, and each lie down in the one bed apart.
Next writer, besides being a prolific novelist, is also a songwriter, a musician, a rocker. And someday I want to have a reading with her. She's also a publisher and has a series, does a series of rock murder mysteries, right? Rock murder mysteries, wonderful books. And I've been working for years on a novel where the music, and it's the same music we share, which is from the Bay Area in the 70s. In particular, the whole Deadhead scene in my novel, the music is actually a character. It's like a main protagonist, and Deborah would understand that. So someday I would love to read with Deborah, where I would read poetry and she would read her fiction, and then we'd switch off, and I'd read part of my unpublished fiction, and she'd read part of her unpublished poetry, as she may tonight. Deborah Grabian.
I actually had two poems that I was going to read, and I gave Lorna the choice of which one, and I didn't hear back from her, and I figured that since time was going short, I'm just going to read one, and it seems to fit the theme. By the way, I taught a breakout session at the Redwood Writers Conference on Saturday, and the Eyes of Synchronicity, this is up in Santa Rosa Junior College, the head of their poetry department, Abby Bogomolny, we went to high school together back east at Erasmus, a school that looks just like Hogwarts, by the way, gargoyles, the whole 9 yards, and they teach you poetry.
Oh, cool.
You know, Lorna? Yes, we teach her up here. Awesome, I will tell her. So she was, yeah, 2 pieces of synchronicity. This is, rather than the love poem, which was really about disassociation, this one,
I like that poem, though.
This one is called Song Life, and basically every line of this comes from a song, and you will recognize some of the songs referenced, and you will not recognize some of the others. But it's all about disappearing into your music and then having to come back, basically. It's called Song Life. Somewhere along this road I'm traveling. It's the road with the 7 bridges and the time sweet and honey. I want to look up all along the mountains of the moon. I want to sing Hi-Ho the Carrion Crow and have it bow and bend to me. Somewhere along this road I seem to have chosen. Mission music is ringing around the nursery door, and the white sea snaps, and I'm skating away on the thin ice of a new day. But that's all right, Mama, because I'm going down to the crossroads. That's the place to sing the Mean Woman Blues. And somewhere down this road, there's a train rolling down the track, and somewhere there's a future to this life, and I will go riding out into the California day, waiting for someone to sing me a rainbow before I turn to stone. And somewhere in the wild, wild west, there are stars in the southern sky, and I did decide I should go. So I went. I ran so far away, holding back to listen to the ocean, and yet the girl from Mill Valley is still waiting for the band. Somewhere, far away, maybe in Grantchester Meadows, a dog fox is barking. This is the season of Bewitch. And right now, and it's me and a gun. Sign me up as a diplomat. My only office is the park. Somewhere along this road I'm traveling, I'll be working it. I will find Waterloo sunsets and a reason for waiting, but not today.
That was Deborah Grabian. copies of your book, did you?
Masses of novels, she wrote poetry section? I don't think so, Lorna.
Look for them online. Next reader, sorry I don't know your last name, Angelina.
Well, it's always wonderful to get to know a poet, and I didn't know about Arteaga because I was invited. I don't remember if it was Huracán Gómez or Miguel Robles to come here, but I wasn't told that this was a homage to a poem, but a poet. It's wonderful to have seen it. And I'm from Barcelona, and I can thank two poets here in San Francisco for having gotten me out of the closet as a poet, because I wrote plays and actors and so on, but I always thought, well, poetry it's for myself, but I better don't show it. And then at a certain moment, a friend of mine, a man in his 90s, who had been in the International Brigade, Abraham Lincoln died, and I decided that I had to write a poem for him, because otherwise his story would disappear. And then Jack Hirschman heard it, and he published it, and they just told me, please, keep writing and show it, and don't, you know, get out of the closet. And Alejandro Murguia invited me here, and I love being in the mission, and I always feel a bit guilty because I'm a Catalan, and poetry in particular, I write in Catalan. So I hardly write in Spanish. I write in Spanish plays sometimes, or I've written other things, but not poetry. So I wanted to write something in Spanish, and I found this magnificent opportunity because one of my dearest friends, the woman that directed my one-woman show, Fulani's Everyone, who is professor of Commedia dell'arte, of clownery, who's a wonderful comic, has been now for 2 years and 7 months imprisoned in Barcelona, being totally innocent because she's outspoken, and there's a very corrupt civil, well, guardians and things like that, and she's there still because she hasn't had the opportunity to have a trial. Anyway, so this is from her, and I got it yesterday, and I said, this goes to this reading, because it's so funny in spite of her situation, and it's in Spanish. It's called Cuentista Novata. Tengo un cuento que contar sobre un burro, un niño y su abuelo. Lo escuché cuando era niña, pero no sé por dónde empezar, aunque creo que ya he comenzado, sin querer o sin saber por qué querer, sí que quería. Entonces continúo. Érase una vez un burro, ¿y cómo explico al burro? Un burro como cualquier otro, ni muy grande ni demasiado pequeño, pero eso sí, con los dientes muy amarillos. Aunque no sé qué puede aportar eso a la historia. Lo que decía, un burro con las alforjas bien atiborradas camino a la feria con su amo y el nieto de este. Iban contentos los tres. Eso imagino yo, porque cuando me lo contaron no me dijeron con qué ánimo iban. Y creo que si me pierdo explicando la moral de todos ellos, incluso la del burro, me voy del tema que en verdad importa al cuento. Contentos, como va cualquiera a sus tareas de buena mañana, con esa sensación satisfactoria de hacer lo correcto, ni más ni menos. Aunque tal vez el burro no sabía qué era lo correcto y solo esperaba que en algún momento su amo le diera la alfalfa, y puede que también tuviera la ilusión de recibir alguna zanahoria de algún feriante. Bueno, ya me vuelvo a ir de la historia, y eso sí que irrita a quien lee, al menos a mí me pone mala cuando leo. Sigo con el cuento. El abuelo había cargado las alforjas con embutidos, confituras y quesos enormes. Aquí por poco pongo quesos grandes como melones, pero me he reprimido, porque me he acordado que en una clase ya me advirtieron que se debía sugerir y no cortar a saco paco la imaginación del que lee, y lo he dejado en quesos enormes. Por ahora voy bien. Para vender en la feria del pueblo grande, y como el camino de la aldea era un poco abrupto, de tierra y piedras aturdidas por el pasar de las ruedas de los carros, pensó que el animal ya llevaba bastante carga. Aparte, el médico le había recomendado andar, y como el niño estaba flacucho, pensó que así haría un poco de piernas y cogería apetito para el almuerzo. Hasta aquí ya tengo bien descrito el principio y la imagen del camino, la tierra, las piedras y las ruedas de los carros me ha quedado muy chula. Eso de piedras aturdidas es súper poético. Sinestesia lo llaman los profesionales. Como de costumbre, a esa hora se cruzaban con las beatas, que volvían de misa de matines. La primera que les saludó se quejó de su suerte y le reprochó al abuelo: «Desde luego, Dios le da pan a quien no tiene dientes. Si yo tuviera un burro, no iría andando con ese calor asfixiante». Bueno, ahora creo que me he extendido un poco y ya casi tengo medio cuento. Podría haber hablado de la mantilla negra de la beata y del abanico que llevaba por el rostro de esta, dando a la vieja aspecto de espectro. Sería una prosa sonora bonita, pero es lo mismo que con los dientes amarillos. ¿A quién le importa? De momento lo dejo tal cual. Al abuelo no le gustaba disgustar a nadie y quiso darle gusto a la vieja. Cogió al niño y lo subió al lomo del asno. Ostras, esta sí que es fuerte. Gustaba, disgustar, gustó. Si no es una cacofonía, es una caca, o un poco de frase, o mismamente una oración caco, porque sustrae todo interés literario. Yo sí. A los pocos metros se cruzaron con otras dos beatas que iban del brazo. El abuelo pudo escuchar cómo las dos señoras cuchicheaban con desagrado. ¿Has visto? Qué poca vergüenza que tienen hoy en día los chiquillos. Mira que dejar que su pobre abuelo vaya andando. ¿A dónde iremos a parar? Que Dios nos ampare. El abuelo se sintió avergonzado de la estampa que estaba dando, bajó al niño y se montó en el animal. Ahora parece un telegrama, ni describo el ambiente, ni la atmósfera, ni los personajes, y solo me limito a informar sobre la acción. Eso no va bien, no. Al poco rato pasaron 3 beatas más, y una, con la valentía que le proporcionaba el ir acompañada, replicó con todo descaro: ¿no le da vergüenza hacer andar así a una criatura mientras usted va bien sentado? El abuelo se sintió más avergonzado, si cabía, y tomó del brazo al pequeño y lo montó con él. ¿No será demasiada fuerza para un abuelo alzar con un solo brazo y a peso plomo un niño al que el hombro ya le llega al lomo del burro? ¿Y si fuera más bajito? Con la inclinación para agarrar al niño desde esa altura, la frazada para montar probablemente se resbalaría, desequilibrando al abuelo, y éste acabaría de narices en el suelo junto a la mercancía, ¿no? En todo caso, a mí me lo explicaron así, y así lo dejo. En menos de 5 minutos pasó un labrador que entendía de animales de carga y no dudó en aconsejar al abuelo: pero bueno, hombre, si quiere tener burro para años, no me le sobrecargue al bicho, que esas bestias son fuertes, pero tampoco hay que abusar. El abuelo soltó un suspiro y exclamó al labrador: cuánta razón tiene, amigo. Y nieto y abuelo se bajaron del borrico. Estos vulgarismos, pa y no me los exige el perfil del personaje para dar un toque cercano y humorístico al cuento, aunque esas dos conjunciones emparedando al sustantivo nieto no me convencen. Pero es que no veo cuál de ellas puedo quitar o con qué sustituirlas sin perder el sentido de la frase. Me gusta empezar la oración con i, le da misterio. Contentos volvían a estar los 3 como al principio, cuando otra beata, aún más vieja que las otras, empezó a regañar al abuelo de nuevo. Dios le da pan a quien no tiene. Pero el abuelo no la dejó terminar. Mi querida señora, no vaya a hablar de lo que no sabe. Yo tengo que andar para fortalecer el corazón, según el doctor. Y mi nieto está muy canijo y le va bien caminar para hacer cachas. Y por otra parte, las alforjas que lleva mi pollino, que usted no debe ver bien desde ahí, ya acarrean demasiada carga. Ahora, si la señora es tan cristiana como parece, podría aligerar al animal llevándose, por ejemplo, un queso, un embutido, una mermelada de mora, o las 3 cosas a la vez por el buen precio de un milersio, que lo hago por ser usted. La mujer le compró porque se sintió atrapada en su propia trampa. Esto último me parece de aficionada, es muy redundante. Debería sustituir trampa por lengua o atrapada por había caído, no sé. Otros caminantes que vieron la transacción se sintieron atraídos por la oferta del abuelo y quisieron comprar también. Uno le decía al otro: mira, ahí venden víveres a buen precio, vamos. Una moza le pidió a su novio: ¿me invitas a comer embutido tras aquel árbol? Y el novio le contestó con picardía: te invito a salchichón si quieres, pero a jamón no, maja. Bien, voy progresando, ¿no? Pues acabo de hacer, como quien no quiere la cosa, un palíndromo. A jamón no, maja. Qué gracia, ¿eh? Se puede leer lo mismo de izquierda a derecha que de derecha a izquierda. Eso ya no es de aficionada, ¿eh? Bueno, que me vuelvo a liar, a lo que estamos. En un instante las alforjas estaban vacías y el abuelo cogió al pequeño en brazos, al burro por el cuello y dieron media vuelta camino a su casa. El niño aupado, el abuelo a pie y el burro, como su naturaleza le obliga, a 4 patas porque era burro, pero no zoquete, y a 2 patas se hubiera cansado más. Ahora, antes de decir colorín colorado, etc., debería darle una moraleja al cuento, pero no se la encuentro. A ver, si quieres andar, anda. O que nadie gobierne tus pasos. O no hagas caso de lo que digan los demás. No sé cuál es más adoctrinante. No, ya la tengo. Ese día el abuelo aprendió que nunca, por voluntad de otros, hay que soltar la cadena de la propia libertad. No sé si es un oxímoron o una antítesis, pero me ha quedado que ni pintada. Pero la verdad que la única moraleja que le veo en todo esto es que cuando una cuentista novata se mete a escribir un cuento, aparece esta excepción: la intención no siempre es lo que cuenta. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. Nota de la autora: si alguien le quiere leer este cuento a su hijo o hija, le sugiero que solo lea la letra en negrita para que el retoño no tenga pesadillas.